What's up, everybody? This is Michael B. Thank you for joining us tonight. As usual, we got our crew together. We got Brent Avery and Sean Fuentes. So let me bring them on in. Hey, guys. How we doing tonight?
What's up, gentlemen?
Doing well. Doing well.
Glad to see you could join us on. Come on time tonight there, Sean. You were still late. Yeah. We got a lot to talk about tonight. You know, we're going to talk a little bit of the Ravens tonight, too, so I hope you all don't mind. And I hope you all will kind of just chime in with me because it seems like both of my teams are going through the same issue. Offensive line issues, defensive breakdowns, scoring. I mean, it's a convoluted mess of both programs, and I think both programs, both organizations had the same issue, and that's that neither. And we talked about this on last podcast that neither of them have actually addressed what needed to be addressed in the offseason, being for the Raiders and the Ravens, the offensive line, and for the Ravens, it would be the pass rush also. And then we talked a little bit last week about what I thought was a weakness for the Raiders also being their defensive backfield. So those are some of the things, and I'm trying to pull up this other stuff so I had a whole outline ready, and now I can't get through the damn thing. But tell me, let's start. Let's start like this by saying, what is it going to take? Because this is we're looking at 22 years. What is it going to take to turn this organization around? And when I'm talking about this organization, of course, I'm talking about the Raiders. What's it going to take? Brent, you got any ideas?
Man, nobody wants to hear it, but it's going to take time, and it's going to take, now that Brady's in the fold, and I know everybody's upset with Spytek, feeling like he didn't address the offensive line issues and free agency, myself included. But if not, I mean, Brady has to have a voice. I think he trusts Spytek. There's a reason he brought him on board. Mark obviously trusts Brady. Mark I think he's less hands-on now than maybe he ever was, and I think that's a good thing. I love Pete's energy for how old he is, and the players clearly love him, and it pissed me off today when he came out and apparently said, no, we're not mixing up the line. We're not doing any changes to the line. So that's obviously not something that any fan wants to hear, given how the way the first 3 weeks are gone. Geno's on pace to get sacked more than, probably David Carr, his rookie season, so it's a jumbled mess right now. Unfortunately, there's not a damn thing we can do about it as fans, but be patient. They're not going to fire Pete first year. He could not win another game the rest of the year, and they're not going to fire him. The money wasn't allocated properly, in my opinion. In hindsight, I guess I thought, that JPJ would stick at center, and Jordan Meredith would be okay at guard, but we're seeing Alex Kappa, who's obviously one of the worst linemen in NFL history, coming in there and playing significant minutes. Dylan Parham hasn't panned out. There is a lot of growing pains, and unfortunately, as Raider fans, that's the last thing we want to hear. But again, I said something earlier this week, and I think maybe you two would both agree with me. It would not surprise me in the slightest to see us win the next 3 games. Now, obviously, we could easily go 0-3. We could easily lose the next 3 just as easy as we can win them. So nothing. Here we could be sitting at 1-5, or we could be sitting at 4-2. So it's just that simple. And I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. I wish we could flip the switch and just immediately improve. But outside of just gelling and coming together quickly, I don't know. I'm a little lost for words. I know that was a long-winded three minutes of makes it seem like I'm not lost for words, but I am lost for words. We have to preach patience, and this is going to be a long hour. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, one thing I'll say is we're used to that because of Sean, so you don't have to.
Touche.
So, hey, I will agree with you on most of what you said. The one thing that, and of course, I'm not even firing Carroll's not even on my radar. I mean, that would be dumb at this point. One of the things that you mentioned about Mark Davis not being as involved now as he has been in the past, and I agree with that. And I think that's the best thing for the organization because I think he's been too involved, like his dad in the past. And I think now if he will hand it off, I think they will turn it around at some point. But you said it's just going to take time. Well, my question is, how much time? I mean, damn, we've been waiting 21 years, so how much time? Raiders, Raider Nation for life, of course. But Jesus Christ, man. I mean, and that's why I said when I watched the ball games this weekend, I saw parallels between the two teams that I root for. Okay. I saw deficiency on the offensive line where on Monday Night Football, the Lions come in and bullied the Ravens. I mean, that's the first time I've seen a Ravens team really get bullied. Okay. Since, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed were there. Okay. Terrell Suggs, but they got bullied on both sides of the line. They gave up 30 pressures on Lamar Jackson. 30, the offensive line. The defense missed 20 tackles. That is, to me, it's coaching, but at the same time, I also think it is a little bit of the players. It's like their heads are somewhere else. They're not in the game. Okay. And these are professional athletes we're talking about. So, you can't be having that. I mean, these guys are making millions of dollars a year. You can't be having that. I don't understand it. Explain it to me, Sean. Explain it to me.
Well, I would say
hold on. Let me clarify, Sean. Explain it to me in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
yes, I can do that. The Raiders turning around. First, we did make it to the playoffs in 21, right? Now,
That's an outlier, though. That's an outlier.
I'm just saying that in the last 22 years, we've had one season we kind of could, that was the worst and the best of the last 22 seasons. Losing a coach, losing a player to a tragedy, bringing in a special teams coach, and making it to the playoffs. I mean, that was like that was a great ride. It really was. It sucked at the end, but it was still a good ride. Beating San Diego on a last second kickoff and overtime to get in, not tying, like all that was really good. I thought we were going to have a turnaround there, but I think I think the turning around, it's stability. This year is going to be this year, whatever it is. I think we have Pete for signed up for 3. Maybe year 2, you extend him 2 years, and to tell everybody, hey, this guy's going to be here, so you're either on board or you're out. And they're doing the same thing that the new regimes always do. Tyree Wilson's slow, and I'm not saying Tyree's like, the best. His potential is to be, amazing. But the guy's been slowly, when he gets in there, he does make a play or two. We're not using him, so it seems like he's out. And I only use him as the example in that there's turnover in the roster. We have these guys that, as fans, we think are good, and like Agent Zero, got traded to the Eagles, and we thought he was going to be good. And he's played pretty well so far. So if we can keep the talent level growing in a system that everybody knows is going to be there, then I think we'll have success. Because Pete Carroll has had success once he went to USC, and then has come back to the NFL. He's had continued success. As far as this game, he mentioned it, and I've heard people say that it's a cop out or that it's BS. I think there's a little something to it, because that team looked lethargic. They looked like everybody else. Everybody was waiting for the guy next to him to make the play, and nobody made it. Carroll said that it's a tough thing to play Monday night, and they didn't. They normally play at like 5. They didn't play till like 8, which means they got done at like 12, and then travel across country and play in an early game. We already have a history with early games on the East Coast, and then we added that, so they were lethargic. Carroll did say one thing, that their Thursday practice was amazing. He thought it was awesome, and maybe that's where he's made his mistake. The Rat Shanahan, apparently they never practiced in pads once the season started. It was all about mental, learning where your assignments were, and maybe he should have taken a page out of that book. And he didn't say that specifically, but stability at the coaching and the GM positions, I think. And I didn't think Spytek did a bad job. Could he have addressed the offensive line? We'll talk more about that. Could he have done other things? For some reason, we have $32 million in cap space. For some reason, some plan that we're not aware of. So the whole limiting Gentry, do they not want to wear him down? They know the offensive line isn't that good. A lot of things we can talk about, and I want to talk about the offense, because I think the defense, as we move along, I think the defense started out playing pretty good. I mean, for the second week in a row, they were backed up. And last week it was the first play. It's the first offensive play of the game. This week it was the first play of the game. So, and I think maybe every Raider fan knew Mariota was going to run it in from the 5. That's what I was thinking. I was like, we got to stop them on the run. Mariota runs it in the 5, but bring it back to the ground. And I know I'm over my minute 30. Stability at those 2 positions.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. Hey, listen. Here's what I'm hearing when I hear Sean talk, Mr. Sunshine and Rainbows, unicorns, all of that stuff. I'm hearing excuses, okay? I'm hearing excuses. Yeah, we're aware of all of that, and those do play into it. You talk about the Henry Ruggs situation. You talk about, some other situations, injuries, those kinds of things. Every team goes through that, okay? Every team goes through that. And I'm not discounting what you're saying here at all. But what I'm saying is there's got to be more to it than that, okay? And I think one thing that you all mentioned about stability is probably the biggest key, okay, among the front office and the coaching staff, and then Mark Davis keeping his ass out of things and letting Tom Brady and the football people run things. Now, we say that, and I agree with that, and I think that's all true. Now, here's what I don't like. And again, I'm going to compare both teams, the Ravens and the Raiders, because both organizations, coaches had press conferences today and basically said the same damn thing. Okay. John Harbaugh says he's not concerned with the Ravens defense. Well, goddamn it, you better be concerned. You gave up 38 points. Okay, you better be concerned. And then you got Pete Carroll. Well, we'll see what happens to JPJ. What you draft him for? If he's, did y'all not properly scout him or what? When he was in there playing center, was it last year he played center? So
Yeah.
some. I think it was weeks 9 through 15. They did pretty good. Okay, he did pretty good. Okay, and I think he's more of a natural center than he is a guard. I don't know what he has done to get in Pete's doghouse, but I do not want to hear my head coach saying, "We'll see how he does." I don't want to hear that. What I want to hear is, well, the previous coaching staff and the previous front office were wrong in their scouting evaluation of this guy. We just don't trust him. Okay, he's not going to say that, but I would like to hear him say that. Okay, because that seems like that's the case. But then you've got, like I said, on the Ravens side, you got an offensive line that gave up 7 sacks, and people talking about Lamar Jackson holding on to the ball too long and all this stuff. Yeah, because he's waiting for the goddamn receivers to get open and for the play to develop. Okay, now if he would have run and he'd got tackled behind the line of scrimmage, or if he'd have fumbled the ball getting tackled, you would have been bitching about that too. Okay, so these guys can't win. Lamar Jackson hasn't had a turnover. He's got 722 yards, 10 total touchdowns, a 143 passing rating. Come on, dude. Put the blame where it goes. It's on the offensive line. And that takes me back to the Raiders, because the Raiders offensive line is not allowing Ashton Genty to get get going.
Yeah.
Okay, because you've seen he's got what it takes. Last week you saw that. You saw some of the cuts he made, and he had 144 yards. 145 of those are after contact. Okay, so he's got one more yard after contact than he actually has yardage. Okay, because every time he touches the ball, the defender's in the backfield hitting him before he gets to the second step. On the first step, they're hitting him. Brent, I'm pretty sure, I think you played offense. I think you played line. I know I did. Okay. What's the fix here? What do we got to do to get these guys being able to run block? And hell, they're not pass blocking either, though. That's the problem. So what do we got to do? I don't like Meredith at center. I don't like Meredith at all, I'll be honest. Okay, but I don't like him at center. I think we need to put JPJ back at center, move Meredith over, and then go that route. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I mean, when you're having these issues week in, week out, you can only wait. There's only 17 games. You can only wait so long before you make a change and try something different, because what we're doing is the same thing over and over and expecting different results, which we all know is the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we do here? What do you agree? I mean, do you think we need to make some? What do you think?
I mean, if we're going to stick with this offensive line, this combination, I'll tell you what I'm really upset I haven't seen yet. You don't draft a running back 6th overall unless he's a complete back. Why are we not involving Genty more in the passing game? Extension of the rule. We're getting all these pressures. Chip's got to dial it up. Chip's got to dial up some quick, little releases like. And I don't get me wrong. I don't want to strip Geno down to Tua level, where Devon Achan's making 14 targets a game for 9 catches for 25 yards. We all play fantasy football. We know how much bullshit Devon Achan's putting up right now with especially in a PPR format. I don't want to strip Genty down to that level. But man, you've got to get him involved in the passing game. He deserves 4 or 5 targets a game, especially if we're going to throw all these radio blocks out there. You know what I mean by radio blocks? You can hear them, but you can't see them, right? So that's we all saw We all saw the mini clips of Dylan Parham and Jordan Meredith making all these radio blocks this past weekend, right? If we're going to continue to be forced with all this pressure, you've got to draw up some screens. You've got to, get out of change up the personnel. Come on, Chip. Like I said, everybody's up in arms about, we shouldn't have drafted Genty. We should have drafted Mimbow. And that's fine. Hindsight's 2020, and there's a reason for that. But I'm just saying we got what we got. It was the same people that were upset that we drafted Genty are the same ones that probably were pissed off that we drafted Bowers, at least until the game started, right? So now you've got the hand that you've been dealt. Let's do something about it. Let's draw up some plays for him, and get that pressure off of Geno as much. You start throwing these little screens and checkdowns and stuff like that, then naturally the D-line's got to back off. The linebackers got to back off. They got to start respecting that, We can't run play action right now because nobody anticipates us to run. So eliminate the play action and throw some screens and draws. Let's let them run all the way upfield and then run it right behind them. Agree, Sean?
100%. I thought I was waiting for a screen to happen. I could only watch the first half of the game because I had to work, so that's what I had. I listened to it a little bit, but at a certain point it sucked. But I was thinking the same thing. Where are our screens? What play can we run to slow the defense down? And I read this article and I forgot who wrote it, and the guy was saying that overall what he's saying is that the Raiders offense looks too collegey. And what he meant by that was in college you have these wide hash marks. So if you're on the left hash mark, you got about 5 more yards of space on the other side of the field. And the routes that are being run don't have that 5 yards of space. And I think the first play of the the Charger game, and then there was a throw into the end zone to Brock Bowers that got bad. Both those plays, they were open. They were open really quick. And I didn't think that I don't think it's a Geno thing that he can't get the ball out that fast. I think he's told not to throw it that fast. He's been coached not to throw it that fast. Because if the ball would have been out when Brock was on like the 4 or 5 yard line, it would have hit him right in the chest as he's crossing the goal line. Period. Touchdown. He might have got lit up, but it would have been a touchdown, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing with dang it, I always forget everybody's name. Turner, the number 11, I think it is. That got all the touchdowns this year.
Number 1, Trey Tucker.
Trey Tucker.
Yeah. Same thing with the first play of the San Diego game. He is open. The ball's late. Linebacker sits here, there, gets tipped up. That's it. So this collegey thing, I think, is part of the run game as well. This particular person, I can't remember, he's a tight end in the NFL. He was saying it doesn't look like this offense allows our offensive linemen, Kappa and Parham, specifically to get the right angles to get to these guys. And he basically said, like, he's at Ohio State, like his offensive line is, there might be 1 or 2 games that his offensive line isn't just physically and athletically better than the defense. It's rare when they match up really well. So, and then on the NFL, those guys are good, so they're not getting the right angles. So that gets these defensive linemen that just hit the angle and they're there. They're there to make the tackle. I agree with you. I saw a stat, Michael. I saw a stat that Gentry's yards after contact percentage is 101. I don't know how you get higher than
101%.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how can they? So that tells you.
About the Ravens really quick.
Go ahead.
The Ravens are lacking that one 5th round superstar diamond in the rough that they always found when they had I can't remember his name, that they would find when they had the GM before this GM. I forgot his name. He was a tight end for the Browns who dropped that pass,
Ozzie Newsome.
Ozzie Newsome.
Yeah.
Ozzie was the best at finding that fifth, sixth, seventh round pick that nobody knew becomes a Pro Bowler, maybe a Hall of Famer. He was really good at finding those players, and that's what this. There's no name a superstar on the defensive side of the ball.
Well,
They're
that's the
great, good
thing.
players.
That
Superstar.
that takes me to where I see the biggest issue with the Ravens, and I've seen this issue for a long time with the Raiders. Okay, it's the GM. Okay, let's go back to Reggie McKenzie. Okay, when he was GM of the Raiders, we had some stability. He was there, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
We had some good teams. Remember 2016, Derek Carr on track for MVP, best season he's ever had. After that, he's running scared. Okay, Reggie McKenzie drafted some dogs. Okay, he drafted some dogs. Ozzie Newsome drafted some dogs. Okay, you got Ray Lewis, you got Ed Reed, you got Terrell Suggs, you got, the list goes on with the Ravens defense when Ozzie was in there. Okay. And Ozzie, as you said, was a tight end. He's an offensive guy. He wasn't a defensive guy, but his scouting department could identify these players, and they could develop the players. And I think that's the biggest problem that both teams are lacking. You can't really use that as an excuse for the Raiders right now, because it's the first year for this front office, for this staff. Okay, so you can't really blame them. But if you go to the Ravens, you've got Eric DeCosta, who took over the Ravens. Okay, Lamar Jackson was the last first round pick Ozzie Newsome ever made. Okay, so since then, every year, and the Raiders are doing the same thing. Okay, that's why I find it. I've really not noticed this until this year, that how parallel these two teams are. Okay, but until Eric DaCosta has shopped at Big Lots, he put Kmart out of business. Okay, he shopped at Sears and J.C. Penney's. Anywhere he could, he went to the local Wawa and was fucking getting offensive linemen out of the stock room. Okay, he was getting wide receivers out there pumping gas in their own damn vehicles on their way to stock groceries at the grocery store. Okay, that's what he has done since he's been the GM. Okay, he's also ignored the other side of the line, mainly the pass rush. You bring in a Jadeveon Clowney, you bring in a Kyle Van Noy, you bring in Brent Urban. It's not a pass rusher; he's more of a run guy. Okay, you bring these guys in because you can get them in cheap. Okay, I understand you're paying your quarterback $50-some million a year, but guess what? That's the going rate. Okay, you're not going to get one for cheaper. Okay, so you have got to figure it out, because the Philadelphia Eagles don't seem to have a problem trading for or picking up a superstar, or what was once a superstar, recent superstar, in free agency or through a trade. But every other team can't do that. Now, how do they do it? Because they're paying their quarterback just as much. How are they doing that? You got any ideas, Sean? How they doing that? I mean, I know the guaranteed money and all that stuff plays into it, but explain to me why one GM, Howie Roseman, can get away with that and can do it consistently year in and year out. That defense is loaded in Philadelphia. It's freaking loaded. Okay. And he's got some weapons on offense. So, what is the answer? How do you build a roster that is balanced? Okay. Because you can't, and I think Brent, I know you'll agree with me on this. When you're building a roster, you build it from the trenches out. You start with those lines, because if they suck, your team's going to suck. You're never going to go anywhere. So, Sean, give me some feedback.
I think this goes back to what you said earlier. Mark was too involved, and he started following these trends, and just instead of saying, "Hey, this guy actually did pretty good," who was Gruden's GM? I forgot his name. He drafted Max. He's a
Oh,
talent
the
evaluator.
TV guy, Mike Mayock.
Yeah, Mike Mayock. Apparently, Gruden did the first 3, and then Mayock did the rest. Everything Mayock did was good. He drafted Max. He drafted
Well, not
Renfro.
everything. He
Well,
did draft
not everything.
Tanner Muse. He did draft Tanner Muse.
So my point is that as the owner, you've got to say, you got to evaluate what the person has done, and if they need to go, then they need to go. But we've had
Yeah.
pretty good. We had Mayock, then we had McZiegler, and now we've got Spytek, and they all their first year. I think we all kind of said, "Wow, that was a pretty good draft," and then the coach fucks it up, and they're out. You know, so we've got to stick with if these guys are good, and apparently Brady's really good at doing this too. If they're good at picking, drafting, we've got to give them time to get more than 1 or 2 drafts or 3 drafts. They've got to get 4 and 5 drafts together under the same system so that you can build that team. Unfortunately, you can't reload like Al Davis used to do. You can't just bring on a new team.
Okay. Well, let
So
me
I think
let me ask you
the
this.
strength of coach and GM have to like each other. They got to have
Right.
gone to college and no.
Well, there's a lot of nepotism in the NFL. I mean, the Harbaughs, their staffs are full of guys, their buddies and their family members and all that stuff. Okay. Gruden did the same thing. John Gruden did the same thing. Okay. So you're saying the stability's got to be there. You've got to give them 3, 4, 5 drafts. And I agree with you 100%. Okay. So what is the problem then? And I'm going to ask you this because, no, you're not a fan, but what is the problem in Baltimore then? This is his 8th year as the GM.
They're winning. I think that's part of it
They're
is that
winning but they're winning in spite of because
yeah,
they have a lot more talent.
I agree. They're not winning in the playoffs as much as everybody wants them to.
Right.
It becomes like nepotism, whatever your system is. If you're winning and it's working, nobody cares. But when you're losing, everybody cares.
Nope.
Exactly.
Everybody, every
Exactly.
little thing. Oh, that guy, he did this. He only got that job because his sister's married to the guy washing socks, whatever it is. And um, I think that's here's one thing that I will say. When let's say this year doesn't go like we wanted to, next year starts off bad. I still think you give Pete
Oh yeah.
a 2-year contract because what that does is it sends a message to the locker room, and that's who you really. Because if the players, and I can't speak for them, but we've been through this constant, revolving door at head coach and GM, and the players know that this guy's going to be there. He just got a vote of confidence after a losing season or a break-even season, a subpar season, whatever you want to call it, whatever happens. He gets a vote of confidence with money and years on his contract. He's ownership thinks he's doing something right.
Well,
So
and I will agree.
you
Yeah.
get out, like hold out to get out of Vegas, or you better get involved and get on
Right.
board with whatever you're doing.
And I agree with all of that. And I think you got to give. I mean, we've all seen how the Raiders have done business over the years, how Mark Davis has done business over the years, and how Al Davis did it over the years. A losing 3-game losing streak, and you're going to be fired. And he's bringing out the Etch a Sketch and shit. Okay, so all right, so we know that's how they do business. Okay, and I agree. I think you got to give Pete Carroll at least 3 years. Even just if you're going to fire him after next year, that's still too quick. Okay. You got to give him 3 years because this team, unlike the Ravens, needs a complete overhaul throughout the whole organization.
I think you could fire Pete sooner if you really felt like you had to.
If
But
he's doing a really, really shitty job, but as long as
yeah,
you see continued progress, if you see continued progress, you can't fire the man. Okay, because you've got coaches that like Antonio Pierce, who was horrible. Okay, you had Dennis Allen. You've had some coaches in there that just suck. Okay,
Yeah.
and they got more time than they deserved. You fired a
I
pretty
don't
good coach in Jack Del Rio. So,
I don't think you can fire Spytek because he knows the group of talent that he has.
mhm.
And
Well,
if he fires
yeah,
and Pete, then a new GM. Oh, I don't. So what if he was a Pro Bowler? He's only 5'10". We need a 6'4" guy. Then
to
we.
draft a fucking 6'4" guy or go sign one and stop drafting these fucking 5'9" midgets. Okay,
I'm just saying.
that's what I'm
He'll
saying.
hire a
Okay?
coach as
So here's the
second coach.
thing, though. Yeah, Spytek knows the roster that he's got. Okay, but if his idea, okay, so what you're basically saying is the GM has to have time to get the guys in there. Okay, so you get the guys in there, and then you fire the coach after 2 seasons. You're starting over again, and the guys you brought in may not be that coach's guys. Brent, help me out.
Well,
Brent, help! No, you're done. You're done.
I just keep going back to what was posed, what seemed like 10 minutes ago. It's the offensive line on both franchises.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, you pull anybody who's watched football, like the amount of football that we have over the last 2 decades, and you ask them, is Jared Goff a top 10 quarterback in the NFL? None of them are going to say no. Or none of them are going to say yes. None of them will say yes. He's a top 10 quarterback.
They might after Monday night.
Now, there was a reason that he was the number 1 overall draft pick because the skill is there. I wouldn't say he's obviously not going to be if we're picking dodgeball teams, he's not going to be one of the first players picked based upon athletic ability. But that offensive line in the trenches, that's why Baltimore got beat, because they run the ball right down their throat. Baltimore had no offensive line. They're doing it with smoke and mirrors because they got the MVP of the league. They got the best quarterback in the league. That's how they win. Derrick Henry's got a fumbling problem. Zach Orr is an awful defensive coordinator. I mean, outside of Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith, I don't know what the hell else they got. Detroit could have hung 60 on them if the game kept going. So
yeah, because Roquan actually sucked in that game.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's allowed a bad game, but but from a league-wide standpoint, he's a top linebacker in the game. That point notwithstanding, and I'm trying to incorporate both teams here. If you don't, this isn't Madden, the video game. Mm-hmm. This is real life. And if you don't address the trenches on both sides of the ball, you're going to get your head beat in. Philadelphia had the best offensive line in football. Last year, they got it again this year. And Jalen Hurts, I tweeted out mid-game. I watched that Eagles-Rams game because it was after our game, and it was the late afternoon game. I watched that game, and he looks terrible throwing the ball. Terrible. I mean, he did for a half. He did for a half, but you know what? They didn't have to do it. They didn't have to throw. Now that they can step back and let him chunk it 30 times a game. But why would you? You can just sit there and just pound the rock down people's throat because you've built that offensive line. I hated that we've already seemingly given up on the rugby player that we cut in free agency. And I think he made it back.
Brought that up last week.
I think he made it back to the practice squad. But that would be a nice project. And I'm going to tell you this. If Pete Carroll continues to hitch his wagon to his son Brennan, it's not going to end well because the man clearly cannot coach offensive line. Every stop that he's been at, that offensive line has been terrible. Wherever he's been, the offensive line has never been the strong suit of Pete Carroll teams. And that's going to have to change. You're going to have to get with the times or you're going to be stuck at the station. And I'm afraid that Pete, for as energetic and as high-strung and, players coach that he is, you got to realize when you've hitched you've hitched up to the wrong wagon. And nepotism, y'all talked about that a little bit as well. That's part of what I'm talking about. Like you've got to, just because that guy is obviously your family, your blood, doesn't mean that it's the right choice. Right. And I hope that I don't think it's going to be this year. Like, there's a reason that the guys that make all the money in Vegas with the sports book and everything had it pegged us as a 5.5, 6 win team, right? This is a year, and it sucks. I'm tired. I'm 41 years old. I haven't seen a fucking Super Bowl until my freshman year of college when we got our teeth kicked in by John Gruden and the Buccaneers. Okay. I am tired. I'm tired of rooting and just caring more about my fantasy teams than I am my real team because my real team sucks dick. Okay. I'm tired of it. But unfortunately, I have accepted the fact that we're not going to be good this year and that this is a building year. Having said that, and I said it to lead this pod off, it would not surprise me. It would be so Raiders to win the next 3 games and get our hopes up again, only to take another nosedive in the second half of the season. So
absolutely
nothing should surprise us as Raiders fans, right? So we could win the next 3, be 4-2, feeling good, feeling great about ourselves before Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City come rolling in, or we could go 1-5 and be like, well, hey, mock draft season, but so nothing would surprise me at this point. But I am saying we got, as bad as it sucks, and I'm talking to myself here, you got to be patient this year. This year is not the year to get your hopes up. And I know we're always prisoners of the moment, and fans, we're allowed to act emotional, and that's why we're fans and not players, because we can get emotional. We can have these outbursts in 140 characters on Twitter or whatever. We can do that and not be judged for that. Players cannot. But
I'm judging you for it.
Get that culture built in. Pete, I agree with you. Pete, this is a free year for Pete. Pete's not going a damn place. And I mean, outside of having, whatever, I'm not even going to speak that into existence. But he's here. Build this culture, and maybe next year will be better. I feel like a Cubs fan. There's always next year, But I think we got to give it time. And I'm beating a dead horse by saying that, but we've got to give it time. And it sucks asking Raider fans who are starved for a winner to give us more time.
Yep, I agree. And I agree with what Sean mentioned earlier. You've got to have the stability. You got to let these guys, you got to let Spytek have 3 drafts. But, what I disagreed with, and I said this already, is that, okay, well, you get 3 draft classes in and then you get rid of your coach after the second one, then, it's basically doing the same thing we've been doing for the last 20, 21, 22 years. So I think you've got to give Pete Carroll those 3 years with Spytek to see what they can do. After that 3rd year, if they can't get it done, then changes need to be made. Yeah. Okay, but I want to switch gears. We've talked about the lines, so much. I want to Raheem Mostert. What's the deal? John, what's the deal? Why? Okay, to me, he's better than Zamir White, and he's better than Dylan Labe. So why is the guy not getting on the field? Why is the guy not even getting in? Getting activated? What's going on?
Bill Williams said that. He's like, why did the Raiders spend, I think it was $6 million or whatever we did, $3 million, whatever, to bring him in and not have him activated. And I think at the beginning of this year, I was thinking kind of what Brett was saying, which is they did a lot of things, and the draft kind of came in. We drafted all skill players. The first 3 rounds, it seemed like. Maybe the first first and second round draft pick, I think were running back, wide receiver.
Okay.
And we were all thinking offensive line at some point. So when I started thinking about that, I was like, one, maybe they think that the offensive line can handle it, but the long-term play is that they're going to do more with the line next year. But with Raheem, the only thing I can think of, which, I don't know, they're saving him for the last part of the year. Maybe he's semi-injured. I don't know. Like, I'm with you. Like, why did we keep Lave? Oh, well, I think the real reason is he doesn't play special teams. Lave is doing.
I agree. I think that's the same reason why Keaton Mitchell isn't getting activated in Baltimore. He doesn't play the special teams as well as Rasheen Ali does. Okay, but I'm sorry. When you got the one guy, you got Ashton Genty, who can't get it done because of the offensive line. You've got to have somebody behind him to spell him. The same thing in Baltimore. You got Derrick Henry, and you see the problems he's having this year with the fumbles, but you got to have that guy behind him. In years past, it's been Justin Hill. Not this year. Okay, Justice Hill is not having a good year. Rasheen Ali doesn't even touch the football on the offensive side. Okay, so you got to have that 1-2 punch. I think Mostert and Genty are those guys. You still keep that third running back to play, special teams on both teams. You go ahead and activate Keaton Mitchell in Baltimore, and you ship Justice Hill down to the fucking practice squad, or Rasheen Ali one, and you still got the other one for the practice squad or for the special teams. But you got to have that 1-2 punch, because if you're going to run your bell cow 20 times, 25 times a game, they're going to wear down. This is,
and
you got
if you're running
300
this much,
guys pounding on you as you take your second step. So, what do they say?
If you're running 20 times a game with your bell cow, that means you're running it 30 times.
Yeah.
If he's
okay, and so who's the bell cow? And who's the bell cow in Vegas? It's got to be Genty.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah. I want to say one thing. And when this happened, I was like, I'm praying, Lord, if you're listening, help. The reason why JPJ is that guard is because he's the best guard we have. And the other guys can play center. So it's like, well, it's kind of like a addition by subtraction. We move the best center over, and then we can put in two guys that can play that position. Like
If he's the best guard, if he's the best guard you've got, why was he not activated last week?
I think he was hurt. He was hurt last week, was he not?
I think what I heard, he could play.
Yeah, he was clearly
wrong, but yeah, I think he did have an injury. But I heard that he could play. Go ahead.
We don't know. It was a short week, and I'm kind of like Sean. As a Ducks fan, I watched him. I watched him, win the Remington Award for the best center in the nation, and then and then when he played center for us last year, he was really good. And he has that mean streak. Everybody looks at him. He's the old school prototypical Raider, right? So the only solace that we can take in this is that to Sean just hit the nail on the head, is that maybe he is the best guard. And if he's that, you can't put him at center. You have to put one of these other bums at center. Unfortunately, when fucking Jordan Meredith is snapping the ball at Geno's heels, something else has got to be done. There's other linemen on other people's practice squad that I think if you're not gonna activate Raheem Mostert, then cut him and go get another lineman to bring in here. Do something. This and that's what pissed me off about Carroll, for him to go and say, "Oh no, we're not changing up the combination." Like, you arrogant son of a bitch! Did you not watch the tape? Did you not watch all these sacks and pressures that Geno's taking, and then we're not gonna do anything in the screen game with Genty, and when Mostert was in Miami, he was a kickoff returner, so he played special teams. He's just not going to go out there and tackle somebody, right? So he's not on kickoff; he's on kickoff return. But that, my point notwithstanding, something has to be done at this offensive line. They're either going to fall flat on their face, and Geno, like I said earlier in the pod, Geno's going to lead the league in sacks taken, a la David Carr, or they're going to turn a corner. And I'm hopeful for all our sanity and our liver's sake that they're going to turn the corner, and they're going to be, middle of the pack, So, but that's just, I've carried on too long without my little soapbox moment on the offensive line. It has to improve. And if Carroll wants to trust his son, I'm afraid he's making a grave mistake.
Well, that's the thing. You listened to him say that today. Okay. You heard it, obviously. Okay. You watched it. Okay. As did I. All right. So he says that today. Now, we are assuming, and we know for a fact these guys know football. Okay. So why the fuck are they saying shit like this? Because John Harbaugh's saying the same thing. I'm not concerned about my defense. By God, I'd be saying, yeah, I'm kind of concerned, because we had 20 missed tackles. Our they were running roughshod on our damn defensive backs, wide open, offensive line sucks, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
I think the only reason, to your point, Michael, the only reason, and Sean might even say this, the only reason you come flat out and say that is because you're not willing to throw your coach under the bus and you're having those meetings behind closed doors. I hope that's what that was.
I hope you're right.
Because otherwise he's a damn
Brent,
fool.
I hope you're right. Because here's the impression it gives to me from both of these guys, John Harbaugh and Pete Carroll. Okay, here's the impression it gives. They want to be the smartest guy in the room and not be outsmarted by the fucking fan base who can see everything that's going on, and they know more about football than they get credit for. And they're calling for changes on the offensive line, calling for changes on the defensive line, calling for changes at running back. And the coach refuses because he doesn't want to be shown up by the fan base. Okay, that's a stretch, I know. Okay, but it's also a possibility. Okay, because John Harbaugh made the comment last year. Well, the people at the end of the bar, they just need to keep drinking and don't worry about what we're doing on a football field. Well, the people at the end of the fucking bar knew more than he did because when they made some changes, the team changed. They started getting more aggressive. The defense improved. Same thing here. We need to see some changes. You cannot keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting it to correct itself if the guys that you got in the lineup aren't getting the job done. Sean, you agree or not?
I totally agree. I think part of why they don't say, well, I don't think why they don't call out their team. They can't lose the locker. They can't lose the locker room, and it's only week 3. They can't. Oh, we got this dusted. They still have to maintain that. Hey, it was one game. We're gonna watch the film. We're gonna learn from it, and we'll be better. They have to maintain.
I agree. These guys are all millionaires.
You can't be like, God damn, we just got our butt kicked.
Why not? Why not? My coach did it when I was in high school. He called me the biggest fucking dumbass fucking country boy you ever saw, right there in front of the whole stadium. And I understand. Okay, that's why that's where I'm going. Okay, these guys are millionaires. You can't do this. This is a profession. I understand that, but you could. John Gruden.
I think you can be John Gruden
doesn't hold back. Bruce Arians doesn't hold back. Guys like that. Pete Carroll didn't used to hold back. Vince Lombardi didn't hold back. Come on. Make these guys accountable. Make these guys accountable. You are paying them to do a job. And if they're not getting the job done, then put somebody else in there.
Well,
these guys
I agree with that. But you're seeing I agree with that to Michael's point, but Aaron Glenn's trying to do that for the Jets right now, and how's that working out for him?
Well,
he said if you're hurting us, you're simply not going to play, and that's fine. But you've got to be able to find that happy medium. You got to find that toe line, and that's why I think, as pissed off as I am that he flat out came and said no, we're not making any changes when the reporter asked him. That's why I think I don't. There's full lies and there's half truths. And that was a half truth, in my opinion. I think, to Sean's point, you can't throw your players under the bus. Again, we're a microwave society. We want our results right now, but we're only 3 games into the season. We're not even a quarter into the season. Now, if the wheels fall off, we get beat by Chicago, we get beat by Indianapolis, we get beat the next week to Tennessee. Blow the whole thing up. You start plugging and playing checkers with the offensive line. I'm not talking about the coaching staff, anything like that. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it sucks, fellas. We're 3 games in. We're 1-2. Did we really expect it to be anything better than 1-2? Honestly, can you sit there and say, hey, we should be 3-0. We should be 2-1. 2-1. I think we could have performed better off of a short week against Washington. We didn't. We're 1-2. Lick your wounds, tie them up, lace them up. Let's go beat Chicago on Sunday and move on. and then everybody's back in the, sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops like our buddy Fuentes there. But I'm just saying they can figure this out. They can figure it out. It just sucks, and that's why I like doing this podcast, because we can reflect on what happened last week, and we can look forward to the rest of the season and how we as fans think that we would fix it if we were in charge, right?
Well, here's the thing. I don't want you all to misunderstand me, and I haven't made myself really clear on this point. I'm not asking for you to throw players or coaches under the bus. What I'm asking you to do is like walking tall, Buford Pusser. Walk softly and carry a big fucking stick. Don't fucking throw your players under the bus. Go in the locker room so you're not cutting it. And I'm going to give somebody else a try there. Okay. When you want to show me that you're going to put in the effort that we need out of you, then you'll get your job back. Or maybe not. Maybe that guy will take your job from you. Say that to them in private. I don't want the coaches coming out saying it to the media. Okay. I don't want them coming out and say, well, this guy sucks, or, Zach Orr is the worst defensive coordinator I've ever hired. Okay. I don't want them doing that. I mean, if they do, I'm going to laugh my ass off, okay, because I think it's funny. But that's not what I'm saying when I say, hold these guys accountable and you got to make changes. And don't come out and say, oh, well, we're not going to change anything. Okay, what I want to hear is we're looking at everything and everybody. I'll be satisfied with that. And then if you make a change, you make a couple of changes on the line or one change on the line, and I see that next week, then I'm going to be a happy camper. I see that you're seeing the same things I'm seeing, okay? And I'm no football genius, but I know the game. I played the game, at a different level, yes. But, I know what I'm seeing out there, okay, where, a lot of the casual fans don't. Okay, but guys that have been doing it, watching it, and playing it for years and years, whether you played it at the, the Pee Wee level, whether you played at high school, whether you played at college, whether you played in the NFL, you see what's going on out there, and you see, and it's easy, like you said, Brent, for us to sit here and say, well, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. That's okay. It's a lot different in the locker room. I understand that. Okay, that's why I said you pull the guy aside and you have a private conversation with him one-on-one, say, look, I don't think you're giving maximum effort, or I just don't, it's not working right now. So we're going to go a different direction. All right. I mean, that's what they tell you when they fire your ass from any company. They pull you in the office and say, look, it's not working out. So guess what? You're going to be drawing unemployment next week. See ya. So, you can't, just because these guys make hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars, okay, you can't treat them any differently than you do your employee in the field. Okay. You do not need to air your problems in public. I agree with that 100%, but you definitely need to be looking at all these issues. That's how I feel about it.
I'll say this, how about this perspective? Two perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was the offensive line. We did draft Raiders drafted offensive linemen.
Yeah,
and
in the later rounds.
we have the saying when the light comes on, right? Is it possible the light could kind of flicker and get dim and then slowly start getting brighter till it's on, right?
Is it going to come on? Is it going to come on in practice? Is it going to come on in practice?
What I'm saying is they've got these guys playing in practice, playing the position, and they're watching them. And so he right now he's like, no, we're not going to do anything. But he can't say, we're not going to do anything. We're waiting for, so-and-so we just drafted. He's getting better and better and better. Now he's brought another problem onto his plate where we're like saying, hey, he said so-and-so was getting better. When's he going to get in? So he has to keep some of it in-house.
No, I got to disagree with that. I know what you're saying about, he can't say this, he can't say that. Okay, but if that's the case, all right, if that's the case, we're waiting on so-and-so to get better, okay? If that's the case, no, you don't want to say that. Like you said, I agree. But you also don't want to say we're not making any changes for whatever fucking reason. You never want to say that, okay? Because, I mean, come on. That's what he said today. That's what
Yeah,
he
I
said.
think you could. Every coach has their own style. Would
Yeah.
Belichick have ever
And it
elaborated?
doesn't matter what we think or what we say, they're going to continue to do what they do because they make a lot more money to do what they do than we do to talk about this shit. Because y'all
Yeah.
ain't paying me nothing. Y'all ain't paying me nothing.
The second thing, who hires and fires coaches? The head coach or the GM or both? So at the end of this year, there could be someone let go, not Pete Carroll's choosing.
But
Spike Tech could be like,
here's the thing, okay? What if, and this is Baltimore's case because Spike Peck's in his first year. We can't put anything on him right now, okay? What if the GM is part of the problem? We talked about nepotism earlier. Okay, well, him and John Harbaugh are buds. They're neighbors. They live right behind each other. Okay, so you think that he's going to make that call? Well, no, he's not, because his
see,
old
that's
lady
what,
and Harbaugh's old lady are going to be down his throat. Okay, and then you got Steve Bisciotti, who is the owner. He made a comment to Ravens media before the season started. He said he strongly believes in continuity, that continuity is a good thing. It is, I agree, but it can also be a bad thing when you're doing the same shit over and over and having the same results, which is you have a terrible offensive line and a terrible defensive line, which the Ravens have had for Lamar's entire career, except the 1 year in 2019 when he won the MVP. He inherited that offensive line. It was one of the best ones in the league. Since then, they bargain shopped for offensive linemen, wide receivers, and defensive edge rushers. So if
reload.
reloading what? From
I'm
from
it's
Kroger?
attitude of
Where are they
reload. It's the
going to the Publix? Or what do you
because
got down there? Piggly Wiggly, right? So what are they doing? Getting these guys from Piggly Wiggly? Because they
the,
sure as shit
well, to
ain't
draft,
working.
when you draft somebody, you have to
Well,
develop them. You know,
okay,
their
that's
talent.
right.
You
You
draft
do
the
have to
third.
develop them. But okay, so you've got let's
We're
look at
willing
that.
to do that.
If you look at that, you do have to develop them. So you've got DJ Glaze, you've got Jordan Meredith, you've got Darnell Parham, you got JPJ. Okay, all those guys are being thrown to the wolves, basically, for the Ravens. Okay, because you have to develop them. They're in their first, second, third years, each one of those guys. Okay, and they're not there. They're not there. So what do you do in the meantime? You just roll with it and say, okay, well, we're just going to take the losses. And then you go to Baltimore. You got Ronnie Stanley. You've got Rosengarten. You've got Voorhees. You've got Ben Cleveland. And you got Tyler Linderbaum. Okay. Linderbaum's in his fourth year. Those other guys that I mentioned, most of them are in their second or third year for the session of Stanley and uh, yeah, Cleveland. Okay, so yeah, you do. You have to develop them. Okay, but if they're not catching on, your job. If they're not catching on quick enough, your job is to win games. Okay, so you got to put the best players you have out on that field. I don't
And
care.
that's what.
I don't care if it's a 73-year-old Michael Brown or if it's a fucking 22-year-old, JPJ. Okay, you've
Who
got to
fires
put
the
your best players.
offensive line coach
Huh?
for the Raiders? Who fires the offensive line coach for the Raiders? Spytek or Carroll?
Carroll.
We know Carroll.
Carroll. Spytech will
Spytek has.
not. Spytech will suggest to Carroll, I think we need to make a move here. What do you think? I'll
Uh,
guarantee he does not. And I'll guarantee you, nobody in Baltimore fires any coaches other than John Harbaugh because that's the kind of relationship that him and DaCosta have. They're buds. We talk about the nepotism. It's the same thing, family, friends, whatever. Okay. Because of that, you'll let shit go that you wouldn't let go because you don't want to hurt your buddy's feeling and you don't want to be the one to fire him. Okay. And that's shit that is unacceptable. Period.
well, and that's why I think Spytek could do it. He's in his first year. He doesn't have a relationship with Carroll.
Yeah, he does.
He's like, hey,
He's building
your
that
son,
relationship with Carroll.
he ain't
I
cutting
mean,
it.
he doesn't have a previous
What if Brady
relationship
is
with.
like, he's not cutting it. We need to bring this guy. We don't have to fire your son, but he's not offensive line coach anymore. He can be
Well,
assistant.
he could tell him that, but you know who the news is going to come from. It's not coming from Spy Tech. It may go from Spy Tech to Carroll and say, look, your son's not coming back as our offensive line coach. Okay, I'm putting my foot down, and then Carroll's going to make. But that's
Somebody
what
makes
I'm
the
saying.
decision. Somebody delivers the news. Somebody makes the decision. With the Raiders, it's got to be Spy Tech.
Well, that's if they're doing. That's if they're doing their job. That's if they're doing their job. Okay, I agree with you. Brent, got anything to add there?
No, I mean you'll pretty much hit it all. I mean, I'll just keep going back to it. And maybe I'm not because I'm pretty impatient in a lot of things. But if going without a refrigerator in my house for the last 8 weeks has taught me anything, you can only do so much. Sometimes you're you've done everything that you can do. You just have to trust that it's going to change. And we're 3 games in. It feels like we've already endured yet another losing season. But we haven't yet, and I mean, we very well could. It's increasingly likely with every Sunday if it looks like this past Sunday. But again, I'm willing to give a little bit of benefit of the doubt that it was a short week, traveled across East Coast. The Patriots game was different. That was the first game of the year. Of course, they were ready for that. Mariota balled out. The defense not stopping a long-ass touchdown run by Chris Rodriguez was concerning, especially from a bend but don't break perspective, which we knew the defense was going to be all year long. Yeah. But I think the Raiders – Chicago's defensive line doesn't scare me. So if we don't see improvement this week against Chicago – then I think we've got some serious issues on our hand. Washington they took the Eagles to the brink of the Super Bowl last year, in the NFC Championship game. They brought back all their pieces. That defensive line was really, really impressive. Now, they did lose Dietrich Wise Jr., but still, their defensive line, by and large, was really, really good. They brought back all their players. And here we are talking about our inexperienced guys up front outside of Colton Miller, who honestly hasn't performed well either, So again, after this Sunday with Chicago, I think we're going to see a lot more. Nothing about Chicago's defense is impressive at all. They lost Jalen Johnson. We're going to score points this Sunday. It's going to be a shootout. If you're betting it, take the over. Both teams are going to put up a lot of points. It's going to be a fun game to watch. But I will say that in Indianapolis, outside of DeForest Buckner, nobody on that defensive front concerns me, and then Tennessee, Jeffrey Simmons, you got to worry about Jeffrey Simmons, and those are your big guys that are going to be lined up with the center. So Jordan Meredith's going to have to strap up his big boy pants and do something. But I think we can take advantage of Chicago up front. That's why I think we can win these next 3 games. And we're going to be singing a completely different tune if we're sitting there at 4-2 rather than 1-5, right? So let's throw the chips out on the table because we're in Vegas. Let's see what happens, and we'll go from there. But bottom line is, and we've talked about it. Bottom line is, we've talked about it ad nauseum. Like, we have to improve in the trenches. That's where the game's won. That's why you saw the results of the Detroit Ravens game this past Monday night, was because the game was won in the trenches. Nobody's confusing Jared Goff for an elite quarterback, even though he does win. Dan Campbell is a player's coach, and those guys they'll run through a brick wall for him. I think they do the same thing for Pete Carroll. But until you address the offensive line, and Brock Bowers ain't healthy either. He should have never played. He should have never played last week. Brock Bowers is that knee, that pass towards the end zone, he catches that if he's 100% healthy because he's turning his body around and making the adjustment in the air, catching it out in front of him rather than depending on it to come over his shoulder. But that's a completely different subject. I don't want to go there. I want to focus on the offensive line. It has to improve this week against Chicago. If we take 5 sacks against the Bears, fellas, I'm telling you right now, we're done. Because Chicago has no pass rush. Montez Sweat hasn't had a sack in like 3 years. So, I'm dead ass serious. He has not had a sack. He has not had a sack in that long. Chicago's defensive line, cheeks, dirty, stinky dog water booty. They are not good. And I'm telling you, if Geno ends up flat on his back the majority of the game, Ashton Gentry's getting pummeled in the backfield again, there better be something like heads on a stick, storm the castle, because that's an embarrassing. This should not happen this week of all weeks.
All right.
I think why we're not going to change anything, because we saw it during the Redskin game. And I think it was the second quarter.
Stop making excuses for him.
I'm not. It's a fact. We had a touchdown drive, not a long bomb, where we drove the field. Gentry was getting yards. We were throwing the ball. It all worked on that one drive. Geno wasn't getting hit when the ball was being run properly, and he broke off like an 8-yarder. He on that drive he did well. Every other drive not so good. So I think when I saw that, I was like, okay, they can do it. Why can't they do it all the time? And then they didn't do anything else the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't see
there are so many things involved in each and every single play that takes place in a game. Okay. That's why I say no one thing causes you to lose. No one thing causes you to win a game. Okay. There's so many different things that happen during the game that determine the outcome and to determine whether a drive is successful or not. Okay. So we've talked, like you said, ad nauseum about the offensive line. We've talked a little bit about the defensive line, and we all agree. And that's why, we're doing this podcast, and I wish we would get more people on here to participate or send us some questions. I mean, we got quite a few people watching this tonight, so thank you for that. But I wish we could get more, because this is a safe place where we can come and do this. We can play GM, we could play head coach, we can, play the devil's advocate here, and we could talk about these things. But in the long run, it goes back. It's the coach's decision, and the players got to perform. So, but that's why we're doing this podcast, is to give everybody a voice, even if it's just us three. Sometimes, there are people watching. So, again, thank you. Please come and join us. Everybody is welcome. I want to switch up real quick here, because we need to get done here. We got kids that got to have baths, and I got to have a fucking drink. So, anyways, so after 3 weeks in the NFL, we're going to switch it up from the Ravens and the Raiders. After 3 weeks in the NFL, give me your two best teams, one from the AFC and one from the NFC. Brent?
It's the Chargers, and I go back and I look at that Packers Lions game that started the season, and I picked Green Bay to win, and I think on our first preseason, I think I picked Green Bay to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, and but I went back and I watched some of that Detroit and Green Bay game. Detroit moved the football. They did whatever they wanted. They just they shot themselves in the foot. They didn't score in the red zone when the opportunities were presented themselves. So for me, I'm going with Detroit. I know that they've got the one loss. The 49ers are undefeated. The Eagles are still the defending champs, undefeated. I think, I'm going with Detroit. Has impressed me the most. And maybe it was just because it was Ben Johnson, and then Campbell was pissed off. He wanted to take out on his former protege or whatever, his buddy. But they BTA. It was straight up belt to ass to the Bears, and for them to do that was, dude. And then to go out in Baltimore, and again, we've addressed Baltimore's issues, a lot, as much as we have the Raiders tonight. But I'm taking Detroit in the NFC. And then, like I said, it's the Chargers. How can you not pick the Chargers? Look what they've done in their first 3 games. And we know we've learned a lot about the Chiefs. The Chiefs might not be as good. The dynasty might be crumbling within our very eyes. Cross your fingers. But yeah, I'm taking the Chargers the way that they've won, and Detroit. Those are my two most impressive teams so far.
Okay, Sean, who you got? Two best teams, AFC, one NFC.
Chargers, everything that I agree with. That defense is playing really well. Herbert, they're keeping him upright. They don't have a run game, so that could, once they get out, if they have to go east, that might screw them up. But for now, the Chargers are the best team in the AFC. I like Detroit. I think the Monday night game was a huge step in learning how to win. Not necessarily a dirty game, but just how to win, for the whole team. But I'm going to stay with the Eagles because they're defending champs and they know how to win. Would it break my heart to see Detroit go? Yeah, I'd love to see Detroit in the Super Bowl. I just think right now, Eagles know how to win. They got the tush push, and the refs aren't giving them too much.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on the NFC pick, the Eagles. Until somebody shows me that they're better than them, then I got to stick with them. But I do think that Detroit will end up being the best team in the NFC. Okay, they are loaded on defense, especially on the line. They've got weapons galore for Jared Goff, so he doesn't have to be a top 10 quarterback. They got two of the best running backs in the game, Thunder and Lightning with Montgomery and Gibbs. They got one of the top tight ends in the game. So, and they're well coached. They're well coached. Dan Campbell's a hell of a coach. So I like Detroit in the NFC, and I'm picking them to go to the Super Bowl. But right now, I think that the Eagles are probably the best team in the NFC. And when we go to the AFC, I'm going to disagree with both of you. I'm not impressed with the Chargers at all. I see good things, but I don't see better things that I'm seeing from some of the other teams. Okay, I guess is what I will say. So I really think the AFC is more of a toss-up. I don't think that the Chargers can sustain what they're doing right now. They've got some injuries on the defense. They got Khalil Mack got hurt and those kind of things. So I don't think they'll sustain it. They got lots of injuries in the running back room. Their receivers are still unproven, other than Keenan Allen, who's older than I am. So we'll see. But I'm not as impressed with the Chargers as a lot of people are, because a lot of people really are promoting the Chargers right now. So if I had to pick a best team in the AFC, I guess I want to say the Buffalo Bills, but I'm not going to go there because I just think that their schedule helps them tremendously. Okay, so, and I've not been impressed with Josh Allen at all so far this year. So I guess while I'm not as impressed with the Chargers, they're probably still the best team in the AFC right now. Okay, so we'll say that. So I got the Eagles and the Chargers. And now I want to switch real quick to the MVP race. I want you to give me three guys that you think are in the running right now. I'm going to start. I'm going to go. The first guy that I think is one of the guys that I just talked about, his team, Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's balling out. He's having he's always been prototypical quarterback. He's never had the offensive line. He's never had the running game. All those things. But he seems to be under Jim Harbaugh. Hitting his prime. So I like Justin Herbert. I still like Lamar. And then if you go to the NFC over there, I don't really see anybody over there that's deserving other than, maybe, well, and he's not in the NFC anymore. I forgot. Okay. So sorry. Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is balling out right now. Okay. In Indianapolis. So will he sustain that? Probably not. So those are my three just off the top of my head right now. Sean, who you got?
Well, does the MVP team have to make the playoff?
No, I'm not sure all those teams will.
If they're if there's no Mahomey, they're 0-3. They might be
Mahomes is not MVP caliber right
without.
now. He is
Well,
not.
no, the reason why I think he is because without him, they'd be doing exactly. He's their leading rusher and their leading passer.
Guess what? They said the same thing about Lamar Jackson. He's got no wide receiver. He's got nothing. Oh, I don't want to hear any excuses. So I won't hear any for Mahomes either. He is not MVP candidate right now. We disagree on that. Go ahead.
That's okay. Okay. And then Herbert, I think, is one. And then on the NFC,
And see, I can't think of anybody over there.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
To this point, I mean, the dude has won 3 games in the last minute.
Yeah.
I mean, team effort.
He's balling.
But he's been balling. I don't know if he'll be able to sustain that. But to this point, like, without him, I don't know that they win any of those games.
Yeah, and I would agree. He's probably the only player in the NFC that you would put on that list right now because Jordan Love, you thought he was going to be in there, and he did play good the first game, and he played like shit the second game, and then this, whatever. So, but yeah, Brent, who you got?
Herbert right now is going away with it. It's not even a close discussion because coming into this year, we thought he hasn't fully been unleashed. Harbaugh loves to run the football. They're going to run the ball, and they've done the complete opposite. They're letting Harbaugh.
That surprises me.
They're letting Herbert sling it all over the field. So Herbert going away is the MVP if the season ended right now. Obviously, we're 3 games in. That's not the case. But so it's Herbert for me, and then I would put Josh Allen because they're 3-0, and then I would put Baker Mayfield. And I don't. And again, to Sean's point about where are the Chiefs without Mahomes. The Buccaneers are 0-3 without Mayfield.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So Baker Mayfield's number 3. Again, I don't think any of those are sustainable outside of definitely his. I don't think it's sustainable. I've watched all 3 of their games because my brother lives in Tampa and my nephews are Buccaneers fans. So they're winning a lot of games with smoke and mirrors, and it is definitely not sustainable. They shouldn't be 3-0 right now. They've been outplayed in at least 2 of their games. The Jets should have obviously beat them. But for me, it's a 2-horse race right now. Now, obviously, Lamar's going to do his thing, and Lamar's going to be in the discussion at the end of the year as well. But for me, you asked me 3 games into the year, Justin Herbert's the MVP of the league.
Absolutely. And, the thing with the Buccaneers, you said they shouldn't be 3-0, and they shouldn't. Realistically, they should not. Running backs are not, Rashad White and Bucky Irving. They're doing okay, but they're not doing great. And then you've got Mike Evans went down. He's going to be out for a while. Good thing is that the other running back. Yeah, Buka. And then they've also got Chris, what's his name?
Chris Godwin coming in. He's practicing right now. So
he practiced in full today. So, so I think they'll carry on. And I picked them to win that division anyways, because that's probably the weakest division in football. So
easily.
All right. So okay, real quick, give me your AFC West champion, Sean.
The champion? It's gonna unfortunately. I don't think that the Chargers just rolled through the division.
Yeah, they're 3-0 already. How can it not?
Right now they're halfway through.
That's what I'm saying. They're halfway through.
Yeah,
and nobody came close to stopping them.
Nope.
Yeah,
and the last game was without. Who'd they bring in for Mac? What's his name? I forgot who he is. He's not as good as Mac, but dang, for a backup, he was good.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't think of who it is either. Brent, who you got, man, in the AFC West?
No, Chargers. Short and sweet, Chargers.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it unanimous. I agree. Right now, the way it looks, the Chargers are it. They're the it team in the West this year. I don't see any other team in the West making the playoffs. That includes the Chiefs. So that's my thoughts. Okay, but anyways, let's switch up real quick to fantasy. These are the last 3 questions. I'll let you guys go. How do you guys liking the league so far this year using the IDPs and that? Y'all like that or don't like it? Or I tell you what, the defense saved my ass yesterday or the other day against you, Sean. So because I tell you, my offense sucked. So.
Yeah, I could have made some better decisions on my roster, but I do like, and I'll be honest, when we were picking defensive players, I just sorted via last year's total points, and then on DBs, I was like, who had the most interceptions, who had the
Right.
most sacks. That was pretty much it, because on the defense, it's about tackles, interceptions, and sacks. If you can get
So,
people that can do those things,
do you
and I
like the
lucked
league
out, I got
better?
guys that
You
could
like the league better with IDPs or better
Oh
without
yeah,
it?
yeah, much better, much better. I mean,
Okay.
it's more competitive because
Yeah.
you can have studs on the defense, just have not
Well, that's
all
it.
studs on the offense, and
I
still
think
be
I beat you by 22 points this weekend. Okay, somewhere in that range. And if it wasn't for my defense, I would have got my ass kicked. But my offense did not perform well. I had Derrick Henry, he did do so. So and some other players too, But yeah, so I think it brings a more competitive league to, when you bring those guys in. What do you think, Brent?
Yeah, I mean, we got a smaller league, 8 teams, so I like the mix up of incorporating IDPs and defensive players in general. So I would like to see maybe we can get 2 more people involved next year. Some that are going to be heavily involved, is like us three are. We love this shit. So get
Mm-hmm.
2 more people that love it as much as we do, and keep the defensive players. I am enjoying that.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two teams, and I'm not going to mention names, and they happen to be related to me, and you all know who they are, so they may need to hit the road. The one my nephew's son, he's not. He hasn't changed his lineup. I mean, I have to change his lineup for him every week, and I'm not going to keep doing that. So, if you're not going to keep up with it, I get it. You're busy. You got other things going on. I understand. I'm retired. You think I can help you out? I can do every damn thing because I ain't got no job to go to now. So, but I actually got to have time to drink. So I'm not going to be doing your lineup every
Had
Sunday.
to come.
What
Yeah,
about the
I got.
waiver procedure? Do you like the waivers with the FAAB where you actually bid
Oh yeah,
on them?
that's the only way. That's the only way I'll ever play. I like when we did the open waivers last year with the waiver. I hated that because it's such a disadvantage to when your stud goes down, and like your season could be completely screwed. Like if you had Saquon Barkley and our rosters were significantly reduced, and you had Saquon Barkley, and then all of a sudden he goes down, but you're 7th in the waiver wire. Well, you're not getting getting Will Shipley. You're not getting that next league winner without a free agent acquisition budget. So this is the only way I've ever played is with a fab, because I've been playing fantasy for 20 plus years, and I refuse to play with the waiver wire anymore because it's such a rookie amateur game to have open waivers all the time.
Yeah, and I agree. That's the way I've usually played or at least for the last 20 years. But before, I have played in leagues like that. Mainly the reason for doing it last year was because of the two teams I just mentioned, because they're fairly young in fantasy and haven't been doing it very long. So I wanted to give them an opportunity to be at least competitive. So, but the gloves are coming off. I'm going to win the trophy this year. So fuck that. So
Well, you know what? I'm 2-1. I know, Michael, you're two and
we're
one.
all 2-1 except for Cupcake. He's 3-0.
The
But
parity is there.
Yeah.
freaking Brent there scored like almost 500 points this weekend. So
Twice in my two wins, I've scored almost 500 points, and then I got
oh, you
Sean
have
this.
400.
I got
What'd you have?
Sean this week.
You have
I'm gonna
447, 449 this week, something like that.
Yeah,
So, is there anything we could do? I do want to add 2 more teams next year. I
yeah.
wanted to do it this year. I have the hardest part of that, and because this is not how teams or leagues operate. You guys know this. You've been playing fantasy football for years, just like me. This is not how leagues operate. You don't start with 8 and then add expansion teams and shit. Fantasy's not set up that way. We wanted to start with 10. We didn't get 10. So, I do want to add 2 more teams. I wanted to do it this year, but my biggest hang up there is the draft pool for those 2 teams coming in, because we've got to be able to sell that to 2 guys.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I mean, it's just like when you have you know, in the NHL where you had to have when you incorporated the Vegas Knights. You know, you've got to throw some of your players out there that are unprotected, and that's just the reality. In order to keep it fair and competitive, that's just the way it is. You know, so I mean,
that's the thing. I want to make sure that whatever teams we bring in, that they don't feel like, well, there's no way I can even
absolutely. I wouldn't want to do that.
I want them to feel like they got a chance.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the thing. So that's something we can talk about amongst us, you know, down the road too, especially after the season's over, because you know I got some ideas and stuff, but I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. Anything else we can do besides that to make it more fun?
You know what? I'm running another league, and I've been running this league for 20 some odd years, and it's gotten to that point where, you know, there's only a couple of the original members. We went down from 12 to 10 teams, and I got some other guys in. And so I was like, you know, I don't want people to just, when they know they're out of the playoffs, they just check out. Like, I don't want that. So what I did is the winner gets the cash, period. Nobody gets paid but the winner. But we are going to do a prize for single game high score. So every week I say, hey, so-and-so team has a new high score. This week was a new high score, 177, right? And then everybody will get a prize at the end. Everybody. Now, I already know what the prize is, and nobody's going to like it except for the winner, right? The prize is going to be, I print out everybody's, like, the schedule, and then the winner writes a little note to everybody he's ass he kicked, and that's the prize that everybody gets. But I think this was the one that really is keeping everybody in. When the playoffs are over and we have a champion, then we go to a no holds bar draft whoever you want playoff round. So that means that you could be playing against somebody who has the same quarterback or the same running back or the same running back. But the chances of you playing somebody with the exact same team, even though everybody has access to all the players, is low. That keeps people. So that's only for the playoffs, the actual football playoffs. So then we have another championship that somebody gets a prize. Again, no gift card. It's just a prize that I'm going to buy for them. It's not going to be amazing, but it's still they're going to be the champion of the playoffs, right?
So what is the prize? So what is the prize for that? One of your real estate business cards?
That'd be amazing. No, I'm thinking about, you know, you can get like a ring like this, like a championship ring.
I've got that ring.
You know, it doesn't say Raiders.
Yeah,
something like that. I've tried.
I'll tell you, you know, those are some good ideas. I like that. What do you think about those, Brent?
No, I'm totally on board. I'm in a one league with my brother and a bunch of his colleagues from CAE down there in Tampa, and the league is actually called Offense Wins Ball Games, and we don't draft any defensive players. There's no kickers, and he does a similar thing with weekly prizes. We do we pay $45 for the season long, and then but he has subjects for so week one, what quarterback threw for the most touchdowns or the most yards, and if you rostered that quarterback, you won a $5 prize or a $10 prize or whatever, you know. And then at the end of the year, you get the winner. Obviously, gets the rest of it. So just every league's different, you know. There's another league that I'm in with a bunch of guys from work this year, and this is hilarious. We didn't pay any entry fee, so the winner gets nothing, but the loser has to do a what are those boudoir calendars? The loser has to do half naked pictures for every month, like that one guy. So everybody in this league is just fighting their ass off not to be last, right? Yeah. So nobody gives a shit about winning. It's just you don't want to win. You don't want to be last, you know. So we talk about fantasy all the time and just different stuff to do. But I like the way you're doing the league right now, Michael. My biggest thing is let's get 2 more people. And if I have to give up a Jonathan Taylor or whatever to let that other person be competitive, so be it. You know, 10 people is more fun than 8, in my opinion, because then you start to separate some of the league, you know, the loaded veterans from the amateurs, you know. So, and we're seeing that a little bit in our league right now. But this league started in its infancy, and I think it's only going to go up from here. I'm excited about it. So,
good.
Yeah. And I don't know if you're going to hit on this. Huh? Go ahead.
No, No, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know if you were going to hit on this before we got off the show, but predictions for this Sunday.
Let's go with
We're 1.5 point underdogs. I think we win the game 31-28. That's, like I said, I expect fireworks in Vegas. It's not going to be a home crowd. That's the toughest ticket to get. It always is. Bears fans are treating it like a little vacation destination, rightfully so. Raider fans are a little down in the dumps right now. You know, I've seen a lot of people selling their tickets already to Bears fans, so it's going to be probably 60-40 Bears, hell, maybe even 70-30 Bears. But I think we win the game. 31-28 us, and I think we are back on this maybe in the 2 or 3 weeks, and we may be 500. You know, or we may be clowning on everybody when we're 1-5. So we'll see.
All right, so you picked that game. Pick the Ravens and the Chiefs. Who you got there?
Oh, Baltimore. I've got Baltimore right. Yeah, they'll. I'm not worried about anybody on Kansas City's defense outside of Chris Jones. Trent McDuffie, yeah, he doesn't concern me, and I don't like. But to that point, what Sean said earlier, Patrick Mahomes is the leading rusher for the Chiefs. They can't get you. You think our ground game's bad? Their ground game is bad. You know, it's horrible. When Travis Kelce, he's definitely got 1 foot out the door. This is his swan song, 100%. They're missing Rashee Rice desperately. We know, and I like the Thornton kid. I think they found somebody there. And then again, that was a scrap that they picked up from New England. You know, in a typical get lucky way. So I'll take Baltimore. I don't have a score for you, but I will take Baltimore to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, Baltimore's a 4.5 point favorite at Kansas City, which surprises me.
Yeah, well, there you go. That tells you all you need to know.
So, Brent, who you got this weekend? Raiders and Bears.
Yep.
So Bears 19, a lot of field goals. Raiders 24. I think they'll move the ball. That's what Carroll's defense does, and they'll tighten up inside the 20-yard line, inside the red zone. They'll kick field goals. I'll be quick with the Chiefs and Baltimore. I think my homie is going to get hurt. I think he's going to get hurt because
in that game. In that game,
could be. He's
so you're saying you think he's going to get hurt at some point.
The rules are set up so a quarterback can slide, and when you start posterizing DB on the sideline when they're easing up, and you throw a shoulder in there. Yeah. Now you've opened the fucking door for some rookie. I'm not getting posterized. I don't give a fuck who you are. Yeah. Right? They're gonna go low. Or they're gonna, hey, I thought he was gonna run into me. Right?
Yeah. It may not be a rookie either. It may be a vet who says, fuck it, I don't care how much you fine me. Okay, I'm part of this.
He goes down, they have no chance.
Yeah.
Right. They barely have a chance to begin.
They're Cincinnati if he goes down. So
I think he's and we saw Love do it, and I'm like, man, the rules are there for a reason. Don't give somebody a reason to fuck you up, and that's what's gonna happen. He's gonna fake to go out, and then somebody's gonna hit him out of bounds, a yard out of bounds, and everybody's gonna lose their shit. Yeah. And he's gonna be
I agree.
You called out the dragon, and he showed up.
And if he's going to continue running the ball as much as he does, because we all know that, that's a dangerous thing for him to be doing. It's a dangerous anytime for the quarterback.
I don't want to see Mahomes or any other player get hurt.
No, me either. But
they're professionals. And you said something earlier about, hey, I played the game. You get 235-pound high schoolers running full speed at each other. That is a mentality. You get two pros, 220, running at each other. That's a mentality. The difference is that collision in the pros is a lot more fierce. So I don't want to see Mahomes get hurt.
I had some pretty heavy collisions in my day.
Yeah, it's a mentality. That's why people who have played football always say, well, I played here. And people that haven't said, well, you only played in high school. I'm like, man, when you are dedicated and you run as fast as you can, you hit as hard as you can every single time. It's the same thing in the pros. Now, again, the collision, completely different. But the mentality to throw your body around is the same.
It's the same. Yeah, I agree. Real quick, I'm going to pick Raiders 27-21. and I'm going with the Ravens to beat the Chiefs 34-17.
34-17.
I think this is going to be one of those games where the defense for the Ravens makes up for last week. Not so much with getting to Patrick Mahomes, but getting 2 or 3 interceptions off of him. He's due. He's due. So their running game sucks. That was the strength of Baltimore's defense, was their run defense. But Matabiki's hurt, Travis Jones is hurt, so who knows? But I'm just going to go out on. I still think that Baltimore is one of the 2 best teams in the AFC. Okay, I just think that they got to get their shit together. They got the talent. They just got to get their shit together. So I'm going 34-17 Baltimore over Kansas City, 27-21 Raiders over the Boo Boo Bears. All right, guys, I kept you all a long time tonight. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I really appreciate you guys so much. And you guys that are watching, please come join us. You don't have to be on there if you don't want to. Just send it. You can send us messages, questions. I can see the questions if you ask them. We'll get them on the air. We'll talk about them for you. Whatever you want to do, or you can come join us, be on the air with us. So we'd love to have more people get involved. So for those that did watch tonight, thank you. Go take care of those kiddos. I'm getting ready to have me some Wild Turkey 101. So you guys have a good night. We'll talk in a couple more weeks and see where we're at.
Sounds good, fellas.
All right,
Enjoy
man.
as always.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yep.
All right, everybody. That was Brent Avery and Sean Fuentes, our Raider crew. We thank them as usual. Thank you all for joining us. As I said, there's several watching tonight. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Come join us next time. You got a question or you want to be on the show with us, just come on. Let me know. Send me a DM on Twitter. I'll send you a link or anything else. Let's do this. This is for everybody so that we can all get on here and talk about our favorite teams. And it doesn't have to be just Raiders fans, and it doesn't have to be just Ravens fans. So, whoever, you're a fan of, come join us. Give us your opinions on, what you think about your team or other teams or players or whatever. So thanks for joining us tonight. And we'll probably see you guys in about 2 or 3 weeks. I'm looking at probably doing the next podcast as we go into the bye week for the Ravens, which is week 7. That gives us 3 more weeks, see where we're at. And same with the Raiders. And we'll revisit things then. If you want to join us, come on. So thanks again. We appreciate you guys. Have a good evening, and God bless all of you. And thanks for watching.